Hello ladies and gentlemen and everyone above, below, or in between. Welcome to Friday the 13th. And today we're going to be doing some more reading for the lulz. It's been a while since I've done this, so I decided to pick it up again. Not doing anything special for the holidays, we're just going to be doing something a little bit different here. We're going to be doing The Short and Bloody History of Knights and Spies and Pirates by John Fairman, page 34. We're going to be talking about the Knights Templars. So let's put on a little bit of show here for you. Since we're desperately trying to get a little bit of time out of this machine, let's not hesitate. Let's jump right into it. Now this guy, Mr. Farman, he's a little bit of a professor, I suspect, and he writes his stories about the way he writes his books is pretty much like a conversation, so bear with me, I'm not a professor, alright? So anyway, page 34, Knights of all kinds. You might have heard people talk about the Knights Templars, or the Knights Hospitallers. I'll try to explain what they were, to throw in a few other knightly types for good measure. So the Knights Templars, these were a splendid bunch of knights who ranked somewhere between things godly and things military. They were recognized wherever they went by their brilliant white tabards, garment worn over the armor, sporting big red crosses. By the way, the crosses worn on the Templars were Maltese crosses, not quite the same as the Christian crosses worn by Richard the Lionheart on his cloak, or the Crusaders over their breastplates. I looked it up, and I think they kind of look like compass arrows. They look like 4 compass arrows converging. I think that's the glyph that they're talking about. Moving right along. The Templars began as a little gang of 8 knights led by the Burgundian knight Hugh de Payne and his friends Andre de Montbaud. They acted as guides and protectors to the Christian pilgrims passing through the hostile lands on their way to Jerusalem. Up until the middle of the 11th century, the Muslims who held Jerusalem had allowed Christian pilgrims to visit. When a different bunch of Muslims, Turkish ones, took over, they went out of their way to attack and rob the pilgrims on their way there. The Muslims regarded the pilgrims as a gift from God, and then stopped them from coming altogether. This made the knights very angry indeed. By the time the First Crusade was underway, these guys decided to become a religious order, calling themselves the Poor Knights of Templar of Solomon, or the Knights Templars for short. They were first recognized at the Council of Troyes and given permission to wear their famous red crosses by the Church's Bernard of Clairvaux. He did so well, by the way, and he went on to be pretty much of a saint. He did so well, by the way, he became a saint. Bernard was the most important churchman of the time. He had preached in favor of the Second Crusade and had coaxed many knights to join. Bernard liked the idea of knights who were religious rather than just out for what they could get, as in what they could pillage and plunder. He granted them their rule, called the Rule, in 1128. Gifts of money poured in to support these noble fellows. Soon most major cities had recruitment centers where the starter knights from the best families in Europe went to train. Sworn to a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience, the Knights Templars became the most dedicated, scariest soldiers, and would fight anywhere they were required. They became so powerful that they eventually chose which of the king's orders they would obey. They chose what orders they would obey. Now that's pretty cool. I like that. At their height, there were 20,000 Knights Templars, as well as their sergeants, chaplains, and servants. They owned massive estates from Denmark and the Orkney Islands in the north to Italy and Spain in the south. The Knights Templars became most famous for defending the Christian enclave of Jerusalem. Even though they did fall fall out big time with their rivals, the Knights Hospitallers. To say fallout was no exaggeration. They hated each other with a passion. In the end, they were fighting each other in the streets. After the Crusades, most of the ordinary Crusaders went home. The job of keeping the Turks and the Egyptians at bay fell to the Templars and the Hospitallers. Those mighty Crusader castles that stretch all the way through Turkey and southern Europe were built during this period. Because they actually lived in the Holy Land, the Templars often looked at things differently than the part-time Crusaders who, let's face it, only showed up briefly to fight the Muslims and grab as much money as they possibly could get their hands on. After the capture of the ancient seaport of Acre, later renamed Akko, that's A-K-K-O, in 1291, the rest of the kingdom of Jerusalem was lost, and the Templars withdrew to their European operations. Ooh, rematch. These operations involved international trade, banking, and diplomacy, at which they were so brilliant that they soon became ludicrously wealthy. So much for their vow of poverty, right? They even brought a huge fleet of highly maneuverable warships complete with battering rams, so they could transport pilgrims, troops, and horses. Very key right there, horses there. They made huge profits, partly due to the fact that they had long ago been given exemption to taxes. Uh-oh. When it comes to money, people get funny. Also, they didn't have to answer to any law but God's, which was a big disappointment for everyone else, to say the very least. As is usually the case, jealousy made them very unpopular. Like I said about money making everybody act funny. Alright, by the way, did you know that the Knights Templars were responsible for bringing the idea of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, the telescope, and the personal check to Europe from the Holy Land? Did you know that? The long-distance traveler could carry a kind of Templar's credit card. It not only saved the person from carrying a crap ton of cash, but meant that he or she could use it wherever the traveler found a Templar in residence. So basically they had, a kind of sort of banknote, but it was built on promise and record keeping. So yeah, credit card, how nice. So the Knights Templars became richer and richer and more powerful until Friday the 13th, in October of 1307, King Philip IV of France, who was getting exceedingly hot under the crown, decided to accuse them of heresy, disagreeing with the teachings of the Church. This decision revealed Philip's sour grapes. He'd been refused admission to the order when he was a young man. Philip demanded to have all the Knights Templars in France arrested and the order promptly abolished. The Knights were then tortured so badly that they admitted to a bunch of crimes they didn't even bother to do. For punishment, they were slowly burned. The Templars' property was handed over to the Hospitallers, who were waiting in the wings with huge grins on their greedy little faces. The Pope then ordered that similar persecution of the Templars happen in every country in which the Templars owned property. By the way, it is thought that the 17 Templar ships loaded with the hoard of treasure that had been stored in Paris Temple 29 left from various French forts. The treasure was never seen again. If you want to know where it is, send me a $5 and I'll tell you. Oh, that's just a nice little sense of humor there. But there you go. That's what we got. Ah, man. Friday the 13th. Boom. So we got and we're just gonna let this fight play out. So there you go, that's my nice little reading for the lulz. So we got the credit cards from these guys. Huh. Got some more Soul Calibur stuff to do. So eventually I might do a review on it. I feel I have to. It takes 60 freaking hours to unlock a decent amount of equipment so you can play around with the character creator. God knows. Or at least that's how long it took me. Oh man. And I'm just going to stop talking and just watch the conflict right here. You'll have to forgive me for not getting their armor exactly correct. There's only so many pieces I can mess with, and to top it off, I'm not a historian. But anyway, there you go. Friday the 13th special. Boom. Nice little history lesson. And that's going to be it for me today. Good luck to all. Peace out.